to the world. Subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stiles and Rosenberg.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ebro, Laura Rosenberg on assignment right now, but I wanted to make sure this conversation happened for New York City. This is Mrs. Meisha Porter. She is the current New York City School Chancellor?
Yes.
That's the right title. And you now Mr. Carranza used to come on the show a lot. He stepped down, and now you're the new big boss of all the schools. Bronx native, correct?
Bronx native, Bronx still. But
Now,
born and raised in Queens. So I got to acknowledge South Jamaica, Queens, or else people get mad at me. And Far Rockaway. Got to recognize everybody.
Our brother Shawnee Coach is in the background going, Queens.
Oh,
Queens.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, this will air. Tomorrow's the last day of school, or today's the last day of school for public school. Any message from you to the parents, the kids, and the teachers after this tough year?
You know, my message probably has been the same since I sat in this role and since I was leading in the Bronx. I just want to thank the parents, the teachers, our students. Our students and families have been so resilient. Our parents have jumped in and been co-teachers with our teachers and faculty. And our teachers have also really reinvented and recreated classrooms into these digital spaces. So I just want to say thank you. I'm looking forward to next year. But I also want to acknowledge the folks that we don't always mention, and it's our school safety agents who've been in the buildings every day, our custodians who've been cleaning. All these folks have been there since the pandemic. They never left. They never went remote. Our nurses, our kitchen workers, so many people who've just been on the front lines and have never gone home, but have been working to make sure, you know, our families are fed, our buildings are clean and safe. And so I just think it's so important to say thank you to everybody.
With now you being appointed by Mayor de Blasio and us headed towards a change in the administration after this election, your job may or may not be yours. They may appoint someone else, correct? Mm-hmm. And you've just had a short time on the job. Are you someone, and I don't know if it's even the right thing, where you propose or you have a proposal that goes to the next administration about the changes and the things that you're going to do? How does this work in transition?
Well, for me, you know, I am a 20-year DOE veteran. And, you know, I when I took on this job, I was very clear that my priorities were to get us open and get us going. But, you know, as a 20-year educator, we have to have a plan and a path forward. And so we are developing one. We are not living in election cycles. We are living in what's best for students and for children every single day. I'm a teacher, I'm a principal, and now I'm the chancellor. And so I bring all of that to the table, you know, as we vision our system forward.
Let's talk about school safety. There's been a lot of talk about changing over from the NYPD overseeing school safety. A lot of people who work with school safety say the Department of Education used to run school safety and it was a mess, and that's why the NYPD is seeing it. But some people with the police accountability issues and the criminalization of youth and the school to prison pipeline, seeing uniforms walking around our schools, I think has, you know, in this moment in history, kind of turned some people off. Like, yeah, no, we're familiarizing our youth with police and the policing and that sort of thing too early. Where are you with this, and what's best? What have you seen work, and what do you think is the best way forward?
So I think what I've seen is school safety agents who've been a real part of our school communities and will continue to be that. And so for me, this moment is really important about changing the way we secure our schools, keeping our buildings safe always, but also recognizing in this moment that criminalizing our students is something that we absolutely cannot do in our school buildings. And so we need to build safe and supportive environments around them. Our school safety agents are a major part of that. And for me, that's what this moment is about. That's what this transition is about. Families don't send their kids to school to be arrested. They send them to school to learn. And we want to create environments that are conducive for learning, but also acknowledge our students make mistakes. And we have to They have to learn from those mistakes. We have to teach them we have to teach them about those mistakes. But we also don't want to, like, to your point, we don't want to start the school to prison pipeline shouldn't start in school. We don't want that to happen. And it happens, too often. And we have to change that narrative. And part of that is changing the way school safety functions in our building and building deeper partnerships.
So does that mean that you are for the NYPD maintaining oversight over school safety, or you want that to change?
It's in the process of changing, and I look forward to being a part of the conversation on how that happens.
Got it. So it's definitely happening. The how is still being worked on.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Let's talk about New York City having the headline always says New York City has the most segregated public school system in the nation. Mm-hmm. What do you say to that headline? Chancellor Carranza would come on and often talk about him believing that it's true and talk about how it was true. But it feels like there's pushback from some of the more wealthier parents that use public schools in trying to get kids from different economic classes and racial backgrounds intermixed in some schools. How are we dealing with that?
What I've said over and over, first of all, it's true. We know it's true. Like, New York City knows that is true for our system. And it's something that we've been working really hard to change. It starts with not having a single measure for admissions into any particular school. It continues with diversity initiatives across the system. It also is about creating every school in every community to be one that families and students can be proud of sending their children to. And so we have to do the work to change our system. And we can't have these gates that create spaces where we are creating a more segregated system. We have to open up the doors to New York City public schools in a different way.
And what timeline is that on? And where are you in that journey of unraveling these issues?
We are looking at our gifted and talented programs. It's been very controversial, but it's important. There are so many gifted students across the city. So we're looking at our gifted and talented programs. We're looking at, our schools have already started to look at their admissions criteria. So they have multiple measures for entry into programs into our schools. And so, all of those things are happening now and will continue to happen.
It feels like some of the more controversial issues exist in Manhattan with districting, right? And I don't know the outer boroughs. If I've heard so much in the outer boroughs with the districting, where you'll have kids in a lower economic bracket living, a block away from kids in a higher economic bracket, and not being able to attend the same school, and they live a block away, and that the districting of that has pushed them to a different type of school that maybe is for, and I'm using air quotes, kids from lower income versus kids in higher income. How are we addressing those districting issues?
Well, I want to shout out the Manhattan principals who have, they've done the work themselves to say, we want to change the zones. We want to change the requirements. We want to have more diverse school communities. We want to open up our doors. And so our Manhattan principals have begun to lead that effort. And I'm really proud of them, super supportive of them under the leadership of our executive superintendent, Marisol Rosales. But Manhattan isn't the only place, but they've definitely, through our diversity initiatives, our integration programs, we have been able to shift the borders to, just to speak to the districting and open up the doors so students have more access to our schools in Manhattan and across Manhattan.
Charter schools, you hear there's corporations really love charter schools. There are people in higher economic brackets love charter schools and private schools. And most of the time when I'm talking to parents about it, it's because and as a parent, you feel as if in a private or a charter school, as a parent, you have more say so and less bureaucracy when it comes to the curriculum your kids are being taught, or the swiftness at which it feels like a school adjusts to new learning methods, new technologies, et cetera, et cetera. As chancellor of a public school system, the largest in the nation, that deals with tons of bureaucracy, what can you say to parents who maybe have lost faith in our public school system?
I see my job when I took on this role as chancellor to really shift our system to really working in service of schools and in service of communities. And, that means cutting bureaucracies. That means ensuring that our parents are at the table and have a voice in the curriculum that's being taught in our schools, including ensuring that our curriculum is one in which students see and experience themselves every day. And so parent voice is welcome. But we are doing a lot of work to eliminate the bureaucracies at the central office, some of which I've learned about when I got there. But, our leaders, our principals, I was a principal in the Bronx for 11 years, and we were able to do amazing things. And so we also have to, really recognize the moment where our leaders can really partner with communities to make changes, because change happens at the local level. It happens at the school level. It doesn't happen at the central office. The central office creates the conditions for the change to happen, but the change happens at the school level.
I think that's a very important point, because I don't think as a parent, I understand that how much latitude a particular school has, or a principal has, or a teacher has, right? Like you don't necessarily understand how much influence the faculty in a school has. And you're saying that they have a lot of influence.
Absolutely. I was a principal. We chose the curriculum that we taught in our school. We engaged our families as part of that process. Our students were a part of that process. Our students asked for a Black History course at our school, and we created it. Our students wanted to have a fencing program. We created it. We had an amazing policy debate team that grew out of what our students and families asked for. So there's definitely space to create at the local school level what schools want. Our job at the central level is to provide support to make it happen for schools.
During the pandemic, you heard a lot about students not getting the resources, in mostly tablets. Like that was like the big headline. There's not enough tablets. Kids aren't getting tablets. What are the facts? What actually happened? And where did our public schools and our ability to get students fall short?
Yeah. So we got over 500,000 devices into the hands of students. And that doesn't include, and I know this for a fact, principals who, when we were heading into remote learning, they were giving out devices from their buildings because they wanted to make sure students had devices, including our elected officials who also were like, we want to help get hands on the devices of students. I think where we fell short, and it is a systemic issue, was in ensuring that every student had not only a device, but access to a device with Wi-Fi. Broadband. And the 500,000 devices that we put in the hands of students were Wi-Fi enabled. But as a system moving forward, we have to ensure that we are one-to-one, period. That is the path forward for education. And it's not about remote learning. It's about ensuring that new technologies are a part of our students' learning experiences. And
what does one-to-one mean? What does that mean?
One-to-one means, I liken it to when you and I were in school, right? We got a number 2 pencil. If you didn't have a sharpener, you didn't have a number 2 pencil. You just had a stick of wood, unless you were creative and knew how to work a knife and a pencil, right? Some of us knew how to do that. You knew how to do that. But
you could take a fingernail file, or envelope opener, or when you scrub it on the pavement, you can scrub it on the pavement and sharpen the wood.
It took a lot of time to get there. But the number 2 pencil of the 21st century is a Wi-Fi enabled device, period. And we have to make sure that every student has that, and that the path forward in our public schools is about leveraging that device, leveraging the interaction between the student and the teacher, using a device as a teaching tool.
Got it. And so for this coming school year, I heard there was a headline that there's no more snow days.
Oh Lord, the snow days. Ebro, you're gonna have to come play in the snow too. I promised everybody that there are no more snow days. The pandemic has taught us how to leverage. Remember Hurricane Sandy. Our school was down for a week, and we had no recourse. We had no way of teaching during that time. Now we do. And so what I promised everybody is no more snow days where there isn't learning, but how about snow days where there's learning and fun? I promise.
Okay. Talk to us now. So you're meaning like I check in the morning on my tablet at home.
You do some work.
And then I get to go outside and shovel and play.
Exactly. Shoveling is an important part of it because we got to get that snow up.
Now, for the parents, how do they plan for that? Because if they're having to go to work still, or what kind of support will they get from public schools if you have a parent that's not even able to stay home for a snow day, or what they have going on?
We're going to work with our parents, and what our parents have done also really throughout this pandemic is work together and support each other. That old school community where you knocked on your neighbor's door and you checked on them, that became really evident in the way we engaged throughout the pandemic. And so we want to make sure. We also, during the pandemic, created rec centers. So I'm sure if we hear from parents that there's a real issue about, I got to go to work still, and, the snow day, of remote learning when I need to be on, it's going to be hard. We're looking forward to working with parents, and our teachers will be on too. So
right.
Teachers might be a little upset with me too about the snow day, but I promise we're going to all have a little fun on the snow day.
Well, I think we romanticize the snow day, right? Because as kids, we knew what that meant. It was like, yo, snow day? Oh, I'm laying back right now. I'm kicking back.
Well,
now.
New York City. I went to New York City public schools. I remember one snow day my whole academic life.
Nah, see, no, Chancellor, no. I'm telling you, there was more. And even if there wasn't more, in my mind, I feel like there was more. So don't do that.
I'm telling you, I remember one. I remember being in the backyard. I remember how much snow there was in the backyard. If there were two, that was a lot. But there were never many in New York City. And as an educator, because we also look forward to those snow days, there were very few. But I do think what's important about this moment is, we have new technology that will allow us to keep our students learning and not experience what we experienced during Hurricane Sandy. And that is the complete shutdown. And so that's what I think is important.
As a chancellor, I'm sure you hear from parents that feel like education is now just getting kids ready to take tests. Where are we, with the standardized testing in parents and New York City public schools and testing and all of that. And then and also on top of that, right, I also hear from parents, they don't have the resources that some of the rich households have. So they don't have the tutors to get their kids, the extra help to get, better scores on tests so that they can get into some of these more elite programs. Yeah. In what ways are you making sure that the kids that don't have the resources get the support?
Well, this is a great time for resources in New York City. We have finally gotten to the place where our schools are fully funded, thanks to the work of our legislators across this state. And so our schools are going to receive 100% fair student funding. We have tons of stimulus resources. And so we want to make sure that we provide that additional academic support to every student that needs it going forward. And so we don't want our families to feel like, they have to compete with richer families. We want them to know that we're going to provide tutoring services. We're going to provide academic enrichment services. We're going to provide additional support as needed. We're going to be here to wrap ourselves fully around our students. We're also going to provide social emotional support by ensuring that we have additional social work supports in our school buildings. And so we are ready to wrap ourselves fully around our 1.1 million students in New York City public schools.
And how do we as the taxpayers, get access to understanding how this money is managed that's coming in from the stimulus, right? Because we've all heard the horror stories.
Yes.
Right? $10 million was blown by given to some consultant who was a friend of the head of this, and nothing actually happened. Or all the teachers went on a retreat and blew $2 million on some retreat at some nice hotels. And we hear the horror stories, right? But how can we track this money? What kind of transparency is there? And where can, even me as a media person, right? I would love to be able to tell parents in the morning, hey, this program has started, or hey, here's this new program, et cetera, et cetera. So where we can actually share information to get these kids, into the programs that are going to be new and we have funding for.
Yeah. So I've been on a listening tour around how families want to see us leverage those resources. So that was the starting point. The starting point for me was, giving people a voice in how we allocate the resources. The second step is going to be that's going to be public. School budgets are public. We'll send the link to you so you can share it with the listeners. School budgets are public. Central office budgets are public. But in this moment, we have a responsibility to make sure that we're leveraging the resources that we've been given to do the work that we need to do for our students. And that includes having strong literacy programs, strong academic programs, strong math programs, providing access to strong enrichment opportunities, music and arts programs like we've never seen before. And so we have an opportunity to create the schools that we all talk about, that our students deserve. And so, I think the accountability is going to come in really seeing that our schools have programming in place that families want and desire for their children.
Well, we would love to, any programs that you guys are rolling out, right? And any success stories, we would love to be involved and sharing that with the public. So we have a direct line of communication now, Mrs. Meisha Porter, and it's been a pleasure talking to you today.
It's been a privilege. I'm going to plug Summer Rising, though. You asked about we're making a huge investment in our summer program for students K-12, full day programming, free academics, enrichment, social emotional supports, and more importantly, fun. So I'm going to plug that. Please share it with
Summer Rising.
Summer Rising.
Yes. Danielle, I see one of your people on here, Danielle. Please send us that official info. I want to shout that out. And this is just a sign up deal, and it's free. People just got to sign up and go.
Yep.
I love it. Yeah. Danielle, please get us all the info. Chancellor, it was a pleasure. I know you have a commencement speech today. All the graduates, everybody, entering into the summer, all the students. I know it was a tough year for everybody, but specifically the teachers. The teachers, I mean, they did an amazing job, Chancellor. I don't know if you want to say any extra words for the teachers and the parents, but listen, it was incredible.
I am a DOE parent as well. And so I just want to say there aren't enough words to thank teachers for the way they've turned their living rooms into classrooms.
Right.
The way they've delivered resources they've dropped off devices, they've dropped off textbooks, they've dropped off food, they've dropped off materials. When we talk about showing up 100% for our students, our teachers have done that. And, I am so thankful. I'm thankful as the chancellor, but I'm also thankful as a New York City DOE public school parent. I thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean, I tear up thinking about it, man. Yeah. Real talk, because the teachers pulled it through. We love you. Chancellor, have a phenomenal summer. We will be in touch.
Okay. Thank you. Take care.
Take care.